Hello, everybody, and welcome to This Week in X, presented by Crushing Comics. We are here today to talk about X-Men Legends number 3, out on the 28th of April, 2021. Here's the story on this. It's not going to be exactly like one of our normal shows, because we're basically going to give an initial reaction and a should Fariha care or not, because Tyler and I have read the issue. Fariha did not get a chance to, and so it gives us an excellent opportunity to play one of our favorite games, Buy or Skip. So this is going to come with some spoilers for this issue. You never know. We could wind up talking about other current X-Men status quo. In fact, due to one development in this issue, we're almost certainly going to make a reference to the Cable issue from this week as well. At least I think. I don't know. There's been Tyler and I have not coordinated a response. I'm just guessing. So that has been your spoiler warning. X-Men Legends number 3, Tyler, what was your initial reaction? And then after we get initial reactions out, we'll sell it or not sell it to Fariha.
I mean, this... the Simonsons did not miss a bit. Like, I mean, this is set like in an era, 30 years ago? 20 years ago?
89, 89, yeah.
So it's like 30 years ago. And this could really be an issue that was like published right after where it's supposed to be published. The art actually looks much tighter, because Walt Simonson is inking himself here. And I don't know. I mean, it feels like I'm reading an issue that it feels like I'm just reading a past issue here.
Oh, wow. We get to be totally dissenters on the panel today. This is fun because I think that the Simonsons haven't missed a beat on X Factor, but it made me more nostalgic for this X Factor period than I think that this issue had any worth necessarily. I think that they're trying to blend things that worked at the time, which was the way that the story beats work, and then this modern need to like have every page be a big splash page and have less words on the page. And it just doesn't come together for me. When I'm actually in the middle of this era right now. I think I just read X Factor 33 like yesterday. And the thing that I love about when they work together is the panel efficiency. I love the way they use panels, the way they use page turns for jokes, the way that they make sure each character has like a real moment when they're revealing or talking to something about each other and still fit in action. And I have a lot of affinity for that. And I think this just totally missed the mark because of how much they've modernized the script. They should have just wrote it and executed it the way that they would have done it literally then. I think modern readers would have forgiven it because it would have been a better issue.
Well, this was done in the classic Marvel way. So basically, they had a plot, Walt drew it, and then Weezy came back and filled in the script. Which is
definitely Walt's style now. If you've read things like his Ragnarok, like he just draws bigger, bolder panels now. And I think he revels in the amount of detail that he can get. And he's always been a very detailed artist, but like he can just do so much more in a wider panel. And I feel like he rightfully likes that. But to me, it's missing that thing that made X Factor X Factor.
Got it.
So Tyler, would you tell Fariha, who has never read classic X Factor, that this is worth reading?
My answer would be no, because of the fact that it spoils quite a bit of things that came before it. And, I mean, reading this in isolation, I think Fariha would be like, why? What's this? And then the other thing, that sort of kind of not really the way I like it is how Jean's butt is always like jutting out. So I think that's the only two things which I think Fariha will be like, no.
I mean, I do want to read the Simonsons X Factor.
Yes, read X Factor up to 43, then jump into this if you want to, and then continue. That works. But reading this in isolation, I don't think so.
And I go one further for people who are listening, because a lot of people haven't read the classic X Factor other than Fall of the Mutants, because it hadn't been really well collected before the Epic collections. Although it's in some of the big X-Men hardcovers, but it was quite scant on its own unless you had an Essentials. But here's the thing. This pretty much directly follows Inferno. It's like one issue after, or two issues after the close of Inferno. So if you've read Inferno and you know that material well, then you probably can just read this, because this X Factor status quo follows that exactly. But I would say that I know some people are down on X Factor, the original X Factor, and it doesn't stand up to the Claremont stuff of that period, which people love to say. Screw that. I think that X Factor from like 8 to 30 is actually just as good, if not at points better than Claremont's Uncanny X-Men and Claremont and Simonson's New Mutants. It's a great book. It has great relationships. It's got a great supporting cast. It's really good. So if anything, I would say if you do happen to read this and you're like, what's going on here? Who are these people? I don't know. Go read it. It's all in Marvel Unlimited now. It's all in Epic collections now. And it's really good. I'm here in the modern day to tell you it more than holds up. I think it's actually better than we thought it was at the time.
Well, not everything is on MU yet, especially the latter half. So,
yeah, after this point, then it gets real scarce, because that's never been collected in color before. And usually when things get collected in color, that's when they go in Marvel Unlimited.
Yeah.
Fariha, based on what we've just told you, what is your interest level right now?
Well, I have, even before we have this discussion, I've always been kind of interested into knowing the creator of Nanny, what else she have done. Like, because, and then also she's a creator of Cable, which people don't often give her enough credit for.
No, they don't.
Yeah. And I like I said, I met Louis Simonson, and I was, because of where I was in my comic reading, I'm like, why are people getting his wife to sign the books? Now I'm like absolutely like horrified that I even had that thought. But so I've always been excited about reading her books and everything. So I'm game to read that. And I think like from what Tyler and to an extent you said, Peter, that it would read much better if I'm just doing it in continuation. Or maybe even come back to it after, So yeah, I'm going to be. But before we go, I do want to say the Ragnarok by Walt Simonson is Old Man Thor. He thinks that we haven't noticed it. We totally did.
Oh, it is. It is absolutely Old Man Thor. Like if you like Old Man Logan and Old Man Hawkeye and you want Old Man Thor, go by Ragnarok.
Yeah, it's like exactly. I was like, sir, what are you doing? So.
By the
Thor
way,
is public domain, baby. Anybody
I know. But the thing is, like, his Thor is not different than his Marvel Thor. So it's like, yes.
Yeah, I mean, he has a right to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And IDW is going to publish it, so that's great. I mean, the thing is this: I brought the Mutant Massacre hardcover at that time. It wasn't that oversized omnibus.
Just the original hardcover.
Yeah, the very first time I met Walt Simonson, and he was sketching in every book because the con was kind of a small con. And I said, "Oh, any of the X Factor members," and he signed his signature, that dinosaur signature.
Yeah.
And he drew Cyclops around it. I was like, "Oh, so cool!"
That is very cool.
Yeah, for free.
I have to say also, like, reading, they did a great interview, I think, with Adventures in Poor Taste for X-Men Monday or something like that. Mm-hmm. They like get it. You have some older creators who are like surly about their creations, or like, I'm not really, Claremont, bless him.
Daddy.
He can think whatever he wants to think. But he's like, I'm not reading the current comics. Whereas like Simonson, as they're telling them things that have happened with their characters, like how Nanny's a thing now, Louis Simonson's like, how cool. Like their reaction is just like, it's like improv. It's yes and. They're like, that's the whole reason we created in this universe to begin with. And it's just so refreshing to see the two of them talk about it and be positive and be exciting. And again, I come back to the same reaction I had to the first two X-Men Legends, is like, I just wish this actually did play with the current continuity a little bit more. And it feels like it maybe is supposed to, because the whole thing is about the origins of Ship, which is X Factor Ship at the time, which previously was Apocalypse's Ship, but will turn into being Cable's Ship, which is Professor and all that, which just got referenced this week in Cable. So it kind of like has the same feeling, like maybe the editors knew that was going to happen and they asked if the Simonsons wanted to do something about the ship. I don't know how it lines up, but I think especially when you have two people who are like game to play in the current continuity, which I think we could say the same for Fabian Nicieza on the first two X-Men Legends. Like he's game, man. He just wrote Juggernaut. He's in on this Krakoa stuff. Like let it have some ticklers that we're going to pick up on. That'll make it even more exciting. Like would I love to read a Louis Simonson current Krakoa issue to maybe a fill-in on New Mutants? Oh, hell yes. Hell yes.
And then-
Where do I send my money?
And then also with like lipstick nanny because she was fascinated by that. She was fascinated by that nanny has lipstick. Like, she was like, oh no. Like, so yes. Also do follow them on official Walt Simonson's page. Even though it's Walt Simonson, he talks about like Louis all the time. So it's very wholesome. It's super wholesome. Unlike Daddy Claremont.
Yeah, Daddy Claremont, a little bit different. And since Zach isn't here to do it, I have to also put in a plug. If you like Louis Simonson, her run on Power Pack from the 80s is just so charming. There's a second omnibus of it solicited, so grab the first one now while you can. Utterly, utterly charming. If you like kid comic stuff, it's kids in the Marvel continuity instead of kids in their own like separate pocket thing, which is part of what makes it so satisfying.
Except for that issue of Uncanny X-Men that they collected with Power Pack.
Oh, which is terrifying. Why would you put that in a Power Pack? I had that reaction because I had to heavily edit that when we read that as a family. And then I opened the Power Pack omnibus. I'm like, oh, why would you put that in there? It's like one of the creepiest issues of Uncanny X-Men and under Claremont. Oh man!
Which one? Which issue?
It's 205, right?
Yeah.
Oh, which is funny because Omar loves that issue. Every time it comes up, he's like, "Oh, that's the best one."
Oh,
it's a Barry Windsor Smith issue, so
yeah. It's Barry Windsor Smith drawing Wolverine's first face-off with Lady Deathstrike as she's like hunting him through New York City, and he's like near death. And the littlest Power Pack girl, Katie, comes and like rescues him as Deathstrike is like cutting him up into ribbons. And it's just like in between these two jaunty Louise Simonson Power Pack issues. It's really.
It's like in continuity.
It is. It totally is. It just doesn't fit tonally at all.
I want a collected edition of all the time Wolverine was saved by little girls.
Oh, a lot of
like
times.
There is like yes, and I want a collected editions of that. Give me that epic.
Like one of those Marvel first book. Little Girl Save Wolverine, Volume 1.
Yes, like
featuring
so
Kitty Pryde, Julie Power. Kamala Khan,
Miss Marvel, it's like so many times it happened.
Karma.
No, definitely. That is
Jessica Drill. She's not a little girl though.
Yeah.
All right, y'all.
Young Storm, maybe? No,
Young
maybe
Storm,
not.
yeah.
No, did not. They did not.
No, they didn't.
Because Young Storm was with Gambit, and then they all came back to the mansion. Yeah, he was with like Jubilee, basically.
Well, kids, we've gone far afield from our discussion of X-Men Legends number 3. But I think the bottom line here is like this holds a lot of fun in it that's not just nostalgia fun. And you may or may not buy it as a modern day reader, but buy it, I mean like get it, like it, love it. But it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, at least our imaginations here on the top row of the video chat here. So, Fariha, why do we even get together and do this?
Because X-Men is better when it's read together.
Yeah, and it's better when it's created together by Walt and Louis Simonson, apparently, too. X-Men's meant for lovers, too. So this has been yet another episode of This Week in X. On the behalf of myself and Fariha and Tyler, thanks so much for being a part of reading this together with us. And when we see you again, we hope that you are still well. So please take care.
Bye.